Good morning. Welcome to Industry Chats, the Wednesday morning edition. I am so excited to have my friends from Benson Consulting with us today, Melissa and Candice. Welcome, ladies.
Hi,
Hey.
Jasmine. Thanks for
Hi.
having us.
Oh, thank you. So we're fresh off the hospitality show. We're chugging our coffee. I got to see Melissa moderating a panel yesterday. That was super cool. Amazing job, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so excited we're here this morning. So quick intro, on our end, and then I'd love for Candice you to share a little bit more about Benson. But Benson Consulting is a partner of Affixify. They are doing amazing things in the area of tech adoption, consulting. I won't do the pitch because you can do it better than me. But we're going to talk today with Melissa and Candice a little bit more about user adoption and being proficient in that and momentum and all of these things. Actually, Melissa and I were at High Tech this year, and we just got on the conversation of how difficult the adoption, like you go through the tech selection process and then adoption can really fall off. So I can't wait. But before we jump in, Candice, do you want to share a little bit more about all that you guys do and how you're helping your clients?
Absolutely, Jasmine. So I'll use the sort of probably overused adage to start first in that we combine people, process, technology, right? I mean, it is really what we do, although you hear that so often, right? We have to come up with a better way, I think, of saying that. But really, we combine all of those elements in any transformation to make sure that a company can really get the value that they're looking to get, right? Getting the ROI from their investment is key, and that's really how we focus with our clients. And I would say the key thing that we love at Benson Consulting is when we can look at the human side of any transformation, right? Because you can look at any technology, but really if your people only, know about a change, but they're not excited to lead it, or they're not excited to use the technology that you're implementing, really you're not going to have the success that you want. So I would say, that is what we do here at Benson Consulting, and we really focus on with our clients is, of course, understanding what's the best technology and the best transformation for you strategically and long term to get what you need out of your business. But then how do you bring your people along and make sure that's successful for you?
Because it's such a key component. And I'm super curious, which again, anyone that watches the show knows we're not scripted. So I didn't tell Candice I was going to do this, but how did you decide that you wanted, I mean, surely you had some personal experience or something that made you like, this is a problem that needs to be solved, because it is. But tell me about how did you get here?
Oh my goodness. How I got here. So we, Benson Consulting started, oh my gosh, over 20 years ago at this point. And I would say my first major kind of look at change management and the need for change management. And this was probably before it was really termed, in its own sort of industry. I mean, certainly there were people focused on it, but I am, of course, a project manager by trade. And so when I first came into doing project management, it wasn't really a thing we talked about. We just knew as good project managers that you needed to have a focus on change management and getting through resistance and getting people to actually use the technology that you're putting in place. My first kind of big experience in that was I worked in a merger of two very large banks, one that is the largest in the world at this point, so folks can probably figure out what that is. And it was, investment bank and retail bank coming together. It was certainly a clash of personalities and culture and ways of working. And if there was ever an opportunity for me to learn the importance of change management and working through resistance and getting people to work together in different ways, that certainly was it. So I think for us, in terms of how we got started, that was certainly that moment.
Okay, I would have some guesses on what that merger would be. That's phenomenal. And then Melissa, you're very passionate about this. I mean, you obviously from a C-level role, you've seen these things. So tell me a little bit about like your passion behind user adoption too, because I know from talking to you, you have so many great thoughts around it.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. And I think just to piggyback on what Candice said, it's sort of like coming from one world and seeing it from a different perspective. So for me, my whole life has been in product and tech in different capacities. And I would say I was part of the problem, if you will, because I think it's a double-sided problem, right? I think I've probably said this a lot, and people have heard me even recently at the show. Like it's not the vendor's fault, it's not the buyer's fault, it's both of your faults, right? Like it's like, and I think we have different aspects of who's responsible for what and who's accountable for what. And then we're just sort of like doing this all the time. And what I saw from like the inside of the product company was like, we had all of the right focus in terms of what we needed to do for the product,
right,
getting it to market and getting, market share and like getting our customers to buy the product. And even launching it and go live, right? We talk a lot about the go live, but then the rest of it sort of falls flat, right? And then we've started to implement, even in the companies I was in, like customer success, hugely important, but they're all commercially driven, right? So like we're all focused, and again, for all good reasons. Again, it's like, you're wrong, but I get why you're doing that.
Yeah.
And then on the buyer side, it was like, I've always felt for our customers because I would talk to them and they're like, well, I don't get it. Like, why don't I know that's in the product? It's like, well, there's only so much you can do. Like we're posting release notes, we're holding focus groups, we're launching, we're doing product launches, but it's so much. And like, are you getting to the right people? Are you getting to the people that it actually affects them on the day-to-day? So to Candice's point, it's like, there's a bunch of humans that are impacted.
Yes.
And are we getting to them? And that's what I feel like there's a big gap. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I transitioned out of my product role to consulting is like, I want to try to solve this problem. Like I feel like it is solvable. It's not trivial because it involves human, and those beings just aren't trivial. But like also like, how can we do this? And so, that's why I'm here. And I'm really passionate about like trying to find how we close this gap.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying rings a bell, especially I always find it ironic that in an industry where we do struggle with turnover and we're seeing, staffing struggles, but then we throw new tools at people and think, and that's just going to contribute to people wanting to leave, is my opinion, because especially in certain, generations where it's like you can't just throw new tech out there and expect people to pick it up like that. And I want to hear from you guys, and either one of you or both of you, chime in. So you had said, and I love this, Melissa, in our pre-show notes, like, it's not just about knowing something exists. So, hey, we're getting this new tool. Awesome. It's about helping your team feel confident and capable and using it. So what would you guys say are the steps to fluency? Like, how would you go in, and how do you guys come in and say, okay, cool, you bought the shiny thing. How are we going to actually make it a part of your day-to-day to where it really is something that understand, you're confident, and then it's not going to impact like the guest experience or the customer experience as a result?
Yeah, I mean, I can start, Jasmine, and then Melissa, definitely jump in. We have a lot to say, I think, on this topic. Time just to talk about this, but
you're jumping out of your seat. I love it.
The first thing, Jasmine, and we talk about this so often, is before you even start to think about how to motivate your people and how to get them, trained up and understanding about the technology, is helping them to understand why you're doing what you're doing. So that alignment across your leadership team and then with your people every day is so important. And I think it's the number one step that organizations sometimes skip because they think that everybody understands why they're doing something, or they feel they don't need to explain it to people, right? Well, it's your job. You're going to implement this technology because we've decided to buy it, and just go and do your job. And I agreed there's some element of that makes sense. But at the same time, if you want people to actually get excited about it and lean into it, then you need to have them understand the why. Why is it important to our industry? Why is it important to our organization? Why is it important to you personally in the work that you do every day? Because that's what really drives people. We're really driven as humans on why we're being asked to do something and what's the benefit behind it. And so I think gaining that alignment first on why you're doing something, and then on the benefits that it's going to bring. Because when it gets hard, then during the transformation, it's a lot easier to lean back on, oh, right, we're doing this because this is going to improve our customer experience in this way. We're doing this because long-term, this is going to allow us to scale. And move on to, bigger properties or whatever the goal is of the organization. But if everyone doesn't understand that goal and they're not aligned on what that is, we're not going to march in the same direction. Right. I mean, so I would say that's number one. And certainly there's more on that, but I'll pause here so Melissa can add.
I think for sure. And like piggybacking off that too, I think like once they understand it, also make sure you're listening to where are their pain points today, right? Like if you don't even understand where their pain points are today, they could be completely aligned and understand why you're doing this, but listen to them, because the feedback they're giving you is gold, right? It may help influence you make the right choice on the technology side. You may choose a different solution or a different direction, or you might even leverage, oh, amazing, the technology you already have Because guess what? You might already have what you need.
Hello. Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
I think like this is, but if you're not listening to the people, like the boots on the ground, it's going to be really difficult to make sure that your choice is even aligned with like where your pain and your problems are today.
Yeah. And okay. So do you guys recommend, I think you do, but I'm curious, like, do people also need to be including this team members during the decision? Or do you think that's kind of hard and it muddies the waters? Because I'm like, I can imagine it would really help adoption if the team even knows this is happening.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that, so early in my career, Jasmine, I started really around process improvement and process optimization. That's how I got into the industry in the first place. And I think that what is missing from organizations is how important that is to bring people in at the beginning and have them part of the conversation, because reality check, leaders day to day who are running organizations don't always know how things are actually happening day to day in their company. They believe they understand how it should be working, and they might have some understanding from conversations they're having, but oftentimes, what is actually happening, and sometimes, Candice might sit at her desk, right? I might be doing something every day, and I might believe that if I tell Melissa how I do it, that I'm telling her every piece of that. But unless she asks me questions and I dive into it, there's pieces of that I'm forgetting because it's so rote to me, right? And I don't think to even say it. And so it's really important that organizations really get to that nitty-gritty to understand what is actually happening, what does our process look like, most importantly, where are those gaps and opportunities to fix that. And then, oh, by the way, you don't have to take everything that everybody says and asks for into account in the solution. You can't always do that. And sometimes that's that explanation we talked about where you say to the individuals that you've talked to, hey, we heard you. Thank you so much. We've taken this into account. We're going to go in this direction, and here's why to as much as you can share. But what you shared was so valuable in us getting there. And I think that at least helps people to be, heard in the solution.
Yeah, totally. And actually it's amazing because Dina said this clearly in the panel yesterday. Like she said to everyone in the room, she's like, hey guys, we're not hoteliers. Like we are not hoteliers. The hoteliers are the people cleaning the rooms.
Wow.
Checking you in at the hotel. They're hoteliers. Like we're not working it. We're not the boots on the ground. So I think she said it perfectly. And that's exactly what Candice is saying. Like, and those people matter, right? And their happiness, their ability to leverage the technology, it impacts your ROI and the you're making. But again, like recognize who you are in this process. Like most of the time we know this, and I know this is who you're talking to, right? Like the decision makers for these things are not the users.
No, they're not.
So that's like the first thing I think, maybe a light bulb that went off for me early in my career was like, oh, the people that are signing the check are not the people that are actually using the products that we're building.
No, they're not. Yeah.
So like we have this big gap because even like, guess what? The people that are coming to the focus group a lot of the time or looking at the product releases and deciding to upgrade or not are also not the people that are using the actual product on a day-to-day.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big gap.
Yeah. I noticed I was in a meeting yesterday on the show floor with a tech decision maker for a group. And he said, and I really appreciated this because we were talking about Affixify. And he said, I'd like to get this tool in front of my team to see if it could help them in any way. And I was like, that's a really good way to put it. Because, we all talk to a lot of different leaders. And I was like, oh, I think he actually wants to make sure it would work for them. Right. And so let's talk a little bit about momentum too, because you guys, I would love to hear more. Let's say we have someone listening, right? In a practical sense, of course, they could hire Benson Consulting to come help them do this, but and feel free to share too, like how you guys come in and do this. But then how do we take this from, okay, we understand the team has to be involved. They have to understand why this is a solution, not going to create a bigger problem by bringing in this tech. We understand processes, all of that have to be laid out. How do you then create an environment where this can be rolled out? Is it through, I don't know. I'm not going to give my ideas because I don't know. I want to know how you guys come in and do this, or how you could recommend this being done maybe for somebody watching that's like, I need to do a better job in my next, rollout.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, do you want to start and then I'll add it?
Sure. I think the first part is isolating like who the people are and their roles, right? Like, I think that's like so important. And one of the things that, again, back to, I'm sure people have heard me say this before, but like when you ask someone, oh, what's your plan to implement and onboard that solution within your organization? Honestly, 10 out of 10 times it's, oh, the vendor has a plan. Like they have their implementation and onboarding plan. I'm like, okay, what are you doing for training? Well, the vendor has training, and we're going to do like an on-site or virtual, and we're going to have like small groups, or we're going to do it by department, even perhaps sometimes if that's even more mature. Right. And I'm like, okay, let me know how that goes. Cause I'm pretty sure I already know. Right. Like that is not going to work. And it doesn't work because the vendor's training isn't going to adapt to how your business is run. And I think in hospitality, it's even more unique, right? Because depending on the scale of the hotel, one vendor's training is certainly not going to work because you might have one person playing 5 roles, right? It depends on the size of your hotel, the size of your staff. You talked about turnover. Like maybe right now you're adopting this technology because you're trying to get more efficient and fast. And so you even have less people. So someone is playing like 5 roles. And the vendor training, it's like, so should that person take, if they even have role-based training, should that person take all 5? Like it's crazy, right? So I think like really mapping that, and it's hard for someone to do, right? I think it's like, you can't expect the vendor to do that. And I'm just being honest, because I've come from that space. And it's hard for the customer to do that because they're not necessarily thinking about it that way. So it's like, that's what I think you do need help in between, you know, again, not to plug for a consultant, but I do think you need
I mean,
to like bridge the gap. So I think that's the first part. Like I would say for me is like, identify the roles that are going to be adopting this, and then make sure that you're meeting them where they are. Right. Because like let's also face, like some people learn very differently. Like we launched these online universities. I was part of doing that at my last company. Super proud of it. Like it's a great tool and utility, but if you build it, they don't come, right? Like you have to go to where they are. And you can say, well, we have online learning. You know, fantastic. Not everybody learns that way.
Right.
If you teach them and then they don't use the thing for 30 days, they don't remember a blessed thing that they looked at on the online learning. So, you know, it's like, and then they don't want to go back and take the whole lesson because they just have the one question. So then they try to call support. And it's like, this is the story you just see on repeat. You just have to do better about isolating those people and building enablement plans for those people. Like, and I think that's when you just, so I guess know the roles and meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I think the important part too, Melissa, to that is start early. So when you're creating that plan, change management should start day 1 of your project or your transformation. And so don't wait, because what always happens, so anyone who's been in tech implementation ever understands that what ends up happening is the plan gets squished and squished and squished, and then you get to the very end and it's, oh, now we only have this small amount of time to train everyone, and then we're going to throw it over the fence to the people that are going to use it every day, and they better be ready to do it. And that doesn't create success. And then you're asking people who are now having to day-to-day do their job using a new tool to also make time to go in and continuously watch this online training on their own time when they can make the time. And we all know no one has the time. And so to Melissa's point, that is why that doesn't work. And so creating that plan early on and implementing, you know, connecting those dots for success kind of throughout the life of the project and the transformation is what really is going to make the difference. And how you do that is, you know, create visuals for folks, create spot training for folks, create visuals, use metaphors, use storytelling so that they can resonate with it, because not everyone is going to learn. Some people will. Some people, you tell them watch a 30-minute video and they're going to be like, that's how I've learned this. I'm going to remember it. That's great. But for those folks that don't learn that way, you have to have different ways that you're bringing them along and bring them along throughout the process. Don't wait until the very end. Jasmine, I think, is the key to that. Because otherwise it just feels rushed and they don't get all of the support they need. And then you don't have time also for that sort of mentorship, follow-up coaching, which is really so critical in what we recommend to folks, is that, you know, post go live, you heard Melissa kind of say it right in the very beginning, I think, is we have this focus on, you know, the go live date. Now we're successful, right? We've won the war. You're like, no, we need to actually bring people into the fold as we continue, you know, the day after, right? +1, +2, you know, +30. How do we make sure people are really adopting and using and becoming proficient or fluent, you know, in the technology that we've implemented, right? So I think that's a key to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Momentum
Oh,
is
go ahead.
important because it doesn't stop there, right? I think that's the other piece that I would add. It's like we're talking about like go live and we throw a parade, right? And like the problem is like after that, things happen. By the way, product companies create more features and add things to their product. And that's a big, like, that's a bummer on the product side because you're doing all this amazing development. And it's a bummer on the buyer side because they don't even know what's happening because there's nobody that's responsible for kind of like keeping up to speed and proficient on where the tools that they're using are going and how they can adapt their processes to be more efficient and like these things. And so you end up with this like sort of black hole of like great, amazing technology that no one's leveraging because they don't even know it existed. And they've already paid for it, by the way. This isn't even like something they would have had to pay more for. And I've seen it happen so much. It's like mind boggling. It's like, but you're already paying for this. And then they go to do something and vendors are like, why are you leaving? Well, because we need to do this.
We
to
do
solve
this.
that problem. And they're like, no, we do that. Like, we do that.
Yes. So I mean, personal experience with that was, this is when we first launched Affixify, we had a hotel, a very large hotel looking for PMS, and their current provider was one of their top 2 matched PMSs that they were looking for. And I was like, okay, that's crazy, because I mean, they had used this PMS for a really long time. And so you just don't always know. You don't know. They don't always follow the upgrade path. Right. So I have oh no, go ahead. And then I have another question for you guys. Yeah.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Like, that's the thing, right? The momentum part is like, this is not a like one and done. This is forever. If you want to get value out of your technology, you're always learning. You're always looking at that. You're always adapting. You're always leveraging the new stuff that's coming out and looking at how you can do better with what you've already got.
Which is probably why, and sorry, my son here is making it's a little funky on my face, but
no, it's all good.
Yeah. It's probably why too. I would even think that keeping everything's different based on who you are. Keeping the tech stack slim enough where you can keep up with partners and not like we have all of these tools and then how many redundancies. Because I've even had requests like, can you do the opposite with your system where I can see how many redundancies we have so I can pare down my tech stack, and it's like, well, no, we don't actually, that's not how we're designed, but it is something to consider because what you're saying is, and also a lot of these tools now, I don't think there's a lot of good one size fits all tools. So I'll be honest, but a lot of tools do more than people realize. And there really might be something like, do you really need, I won't say, but like, do you really need these 2 things? Probably not. So I think it's that. And then I have a question to kind of flip the script a little bit for a vendor listening. So if I'm a vendor, because I'm sitting here thinking, like there was a time years ago, Stephanie and I went back in our old company, we sold a huge deal. Me and 2 other girls flew out overseas to help get the deal done. I mean, it was a huge team effort. And then there were still some struggles with adoption, no matter what we did. So would you say that a vendor should maybe step back on their plan and let the customer guide them on here's how we want you to come in and train? Because I'm feeling like vendors have these grand ideas, but it's not sounding like it's going to work well for the customer.
Yeah. You want me to take that one, Candice?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer would be in a perfect world, yes. Wouldn't be well if the vendor could stop in every case and co-create that solution with the customer. That would be wonderful. The reality of that though, Jasmine, is that's going to be very difficult for a vendor to be able to do, right? Because they can't scale if they have to constantly be customizing their approach to every single customer they're serving. So while in a perfect world for the people that they're implementing with, that would be amazing. But I think that's where that connection comes in, where you use someone like Benson Consulting or another organization that can help you kind of with that connection and be that liaison between the 2. That's why that's so super important, because it's not going to be feasible for the vendor to do that. Now, at the same time, I think it is feasible for them to listen to pain points over time that they're hearing from their customers. And, one of the things that we're working on with some vendor companies is saying, hey, let us help you actually hear those things and then create with you a scorecard, a kind of way to measure how proficient are folks becoming in your technology? What changes might you need to be making? Where are you seeing gaps and that's causing that churn in the long term? And so I think that's the secret sauce, Jasmine, is yes, listening and figuring out then what tools and partnerships do you need to bring into place to make that successful with each of your customers. because certainly it's not in the vendor's best interest either to always be customizing that activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would also add, like, I don't think, like, in that scenario, even if in that perfect world, I'm not confident, like,
will they be able to do it? Yeah, no.
The customers will be able to guide the vendor and like how to do that, right? Like, I think, and that's what I've seen in my history is like, they just don't know, like they really don't know. And so that's why they really need somebody that's non-biased to help on both sides. And again, like, I think we just have to like admit that's the case and then figure out how to solve it together instead of like still trying to like make it work.
Yeah, because it's not. Yeah, no, I think it's just phenomenal. I'm actually thinking we're going to need like a follow-up round 2 of this conversation because it's so good to think about. And I think, of course, for hospitality, but this also goes for really any organization. And so I think, you know, for those listening, we've already had some good comments. Thank you, Cassandra, for joining us. We would love to know, how can our audience, of course, we'd love for them to connect through Affixify. So if you guys want to get in touch with Benson Consulting, use Affixify, but also you guys have so much to share. So how can our audience find you guys? Is it LinkedIn, website? Where's the best place?
Yeah, I would say both Melissa and I are very active on LinkedIn. And so we're sharing constantly ways to connect with us there, whether it's through some virtual conversations we're holding, our executive roundtables, or just hearing our insights that we're bringing forth into the marketplace. So definitely connect with both Melissa and myself on LinkedIn personally. And then we generally we're posting and then sharing it on our business page. So we'd love if you connect there too, but really if you connect with us, that's the best way. And then obviously our website too, they can see how to find us there as well.
I love it. Well, ladies, this went in a flash. I can't believe we're already at the top of the hour. Thank you guys for joining, especially hot off the heels of the hospitality show. I'm so grateful to our audience. This will be on YouTube very soon, so you guys can tune in there. If you missed it, share it with a friend too. And we will be back next week. We're kicking off our Founder Story series in November. So next week, we are going to hear from Bob Graham, who is the founder and CEO of Event Temple, to share his, I don't even know the whole story, but it sounds like a wild ride. So I cannot wait to hear it. We're also going to have Jamie Job from Amaze Insights on next month. We're going to have Wendy Song, who is the founder of Evolution, and it's an influencer platform. So November is sure to be exciting. But ladies, thank you so much. This was a joy. I cannot wait to have this on our YouTube channel for others to learn. And let's plan our second version of this episode very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, everyone. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.